free, and enjoy more of what the world has to offer in this action one, because this is where most human beings screw the pooch.
So a little one-person trampoline, very,
If I screen shared it, like there's no excuse. Like phone numbers are just out there. You just got to pick up the phone, smile, and dial. So. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk to Tanner Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises to help make you the absolute best entrepreneur you can be, not only for yourself, but the people you love and care about most. And today we're talking about a pretty interesting topic, something that's newer to me in the sense of working with it, working on it. I've heard about childhood traumas, of course, and kind of the effects and the roles that it can play. I guess I didn't really understand how certain moments and experiences and feelings and emotions that we use and create as children affect our decision making, affect our ability to take action more than anything on the stuff that we're trying to do and complete today. So to help with rounding ourselves out, with making ourselves a better version of ourselves, to be able to reconnect with passions, dreams, talents that we may have put aside, we're going to be able to hopefully reconnect with them. And follow along with me this morning as we talk about how childhood traumas. I'm going to give a couple of my own experiences, be a little vulnerable this morning. Good morning with you all. And I'm just going to explain my experience with it, what's kind of going on. And then maybe you can just sit in your own seat and you kind of think and question why you do what you do, how you handle what you do, and then how you can maybe reconnect with a younger version of yourself, and how that can be very helpful in raising our awareness. And again, today's goal will be, what do I have under here, is to increase our self-esteem, to increase our self-compassion for ourselves, and to increase our compassion for other people. If you do these three things, I promise you will not suffer. If you give yourself some compassion, you give it to others, usually things tend to work out for the right reasons. So, but just with that, to kind of dive into initial with childhood trauma, I wanted to talk about the word coping. So coping is when I do something to help escape a certain feeling. I do this to help escape a certain feeling. And I'm going to express a very particular situation that happens for me. It's different for everybody, so you kind of got to dive in, work with it. I do recommend working with a professional, working with a coach, working with a therapist, or just talking to loved ones about this kind of stuff. It is very, very helpful to communicate, get your words out to somebody else. But what was happening for me was I was getting a very particular feeling in my chest whenever I would have a project due. Whenever I would have a project due, or whenever I would have to start something that I knew was very complex, or that I wouldn't be very good at, would be a better way to put it. So you can imagine I'm working on this course, I'm putting systems in it, I'm making it self-directed. So think of like a college course that you would take, but this is just the subject is you, and it's for you. It's not about kind of the bigger ambiguous stuff. It's definitely a university level course on you, for you. And there's a lot of these parts and systems and putting in the tutorial videos and like writing some code and stuff that I'm terrible at. I don't know how to do. And I've been procrastinating very particular parts of this, very particular parts. And I have this feeling when I need to do this, when I need to get up in the morning, I need to get after on what it is that I want to do. I have this particular feeling in my chest, this irritation, this confusion feeling that I feel in my chest. Me in particular, most people feel something in their chest, feel something in their shoulders, maybe in your head, some particular body part be coming up. You should notice when you're feeling friction to do something that you know logically would very much help you succeed and achieve your goals, but we still resist and we continue to not do it. Well, for me, it was I was working with my coach and I was getting asked the questions of, when was the earliest that you remember this feeling? When was the earliest that you remember this feeling? So when you're feeling like an irritation, when you're feeling a resistance, if you can try and embody and try and vision when this happened in your life, we can get in touch and we can reconnect with this younger version of ourselves. So for me in particular, it was when I was around 12 or 13 years old, and I decided to stop going over to my dad's house. And I want to preface, I have a lot of love for my father. I still love the man today. We don't converse, but I still have a lot of love and empathy and compassion for him in so many ways. So I do want to leave with that. The so It's around 12 or 13, I believe, or this is the earliest that I remember the feeling and getting asked. And my brother was still continuing to go over to the house. My brother was still going over to my dad's house. He had friends over all the time. We had kind of we had a stepmom situation, and he was still continuing to go over to the house. And there was a part of me that felt very obligated to go over to the house. Um, I love my dad a lot and I wanted to go over there, but there were, it was a bit of a party scene. And like, let's be real, we weren't, if it came to getting my schoolwork done, not happening. And there was, and I'm definitely not taking shots versus just like the environment sometimes made me really uncomfortable, to be flat out honest. Like I was 12, 13. I much rather, I wanted my dad's time and attention. And I loved his personality, and I still love so many things about him. However, I wasn't getting what I needed. And for some reason, as a 12 or 13-year old, I was able to assess that this was an unhealthy situation for me at the time. And I decided I'm not going to go, but I still felt a feeling of wanting to go, an obligation of wanting to go. And this running away feeling has stuck with me for a long, long time. I remember this feeling, and it's wild how we have so many experiences, but we only feel so many emotions. It's really not that big of a list. You'd be really surprised on like the things that you're actually feeling and going on in your body are really simplified to the number of decisions, whether you're fighting friction to go work out or you're fighting friction to work on that project that you want to. The core of the feeling and the stem and the root of it is actually from very, like, it's the same over and over and over again. And it's like this, the emotions are and feelings are like pushing a beach ball down underwater. You can hold them down for a really long time, but the farther you push them down, the bigger the explosion when the ball would come back up. And this was happening to me in all parts of life. So when I was feeling confused, and I felt like I was running away. I felt like I was bailing on my dad. I was bailing on like my stepmom and the situation they had. They had a little kid, and I wasn't the baby anymore. I didn't handle that very well, to be totally honest with you. And I just, yeah, I felt pretty terrible that they loved me. They were just bad at setting up a good environment for me to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And so I had to make a choice, or I made the choice of not going over there anymore. And I made the choice of not going over there anymore. And that made me feel like I was running away, and it made me feel bad, and it made me feel like I was not good enough in a lot of ways. And that feeling I held on to all the way up until very recently. And I still hold on to it. And the point of today, I want to give this specific example because I believe we all have this one major feeling that causes us to not do what it is that we truly want to do. I believe everyone has different scenarios. This could have been you had a really massive breakup, and say you dated a girl all the way through middle school, high school, and then you got to college, you broke up, and then he or she goes off and gets with other people right away, and then you're devastated, and now you're really resilient to like being in a relationship with absolutely anybody because you don't want to get hurt at all. And I think these big experiences are really good to ask ourselves when you want to do something. Say if you want to go work out today, say if you want to write that book, say if you want to keep working on the exercises for the course that I'm building out, when I want to engage with this and I don't do it, I resist, and a feeling comes up, this is your chance to dive into the feeling and kind of feel it, and then ask yourself a few questions. When was the first time I remember feeling this feeling? What is this feeling really about? What is going on here? Just being very curious and compassionate with yourself. And to be totally frank, it's going to be pretty painful. And I remember the first couple times of me diving into this moment and really locking in that it was like around that late middle school age was when I was feeling this in particular. It's really painful at first, and you're sitting with it and you're kind of you want to envision a smaller version of yourself, say yourself at that age. And I want you to be the parent in this situation. I want you to pick out where you were in your life. I want you to pick out your favorite spot. For me, that was going to play basketball, pick up basketball at the high school. That at that time in my life was my favorite thing to do. I got to do it with my friends. It just took me out of everything and got me really to live in the present moment, which is the whole point of life, to really get into the present moment and like get into the activities that we're doing and we love. And I went to that spot, and I went with the 13-year-old Tanner, 12, 13-year-old Tanner, and I gave him a hug. And some of this can sound crazy, and I thought the same, and that's totally okay. But if you are hurting and you are resisting things, then we need to understand that people are crazy, and sometimes we got to do crazy things to help improve the quality of our lives. And I've thrown the skepticism out of the window. I'm very open-minded nowadays, I'd like to think. And I'm sitting in there with I'm visualizing and trying to meditate as my coach is guiding me through it. And I'm visualizing standing over there on this court with the younger version of myself. And then I'm like practicing shooting a free throw, just the physical motion of it. And I'm feeling this feeling, and I'm feeling this feeling of when I want to run away. And I'm asking him, what does he need? Does he need attention? Does he need love? What does he need? He does need support of some kind. And just being there with him made the feeling of me wanting to run away kind of melt away, and brought me a lot of peace. And it takes a lot of times of checking in with this. Now I check in, now that I understand a very particular moment, and I could be off. It could be a different situation, a different time in my childhood, versus just nailing something down, naming it, giving it a shape, identifying what it is, and then figuring out that was a tool that helped me survive as a child. Was to run away, was to push it down, was to not have to face it, to go play basketball, not feel my emotions, not think about my dad or anything like that. And that worked as a kid. Now I want you to ask, is that feeling, is that experience still helping you survive today? Is running away helping me survive today? The answer is hell no. No, hell no, it hasn't. I've outgrown that. I've evolved and I've grown. And now my problem's here today. My opportunity is to dive in that no longer serves me, is to feel this confused blobs with spikes on it, like of pressure and feeling of like pain and like that running away from that and pushing the beach ball down further into the water no longer serves me versus gradually building it up, letting it come to the surface and acknowledging it what it is and supporting it. And then all of a sudden it starts to melt away and I start to feel a hell of a lot better. The the goal, the idea is to think of the things that you want to do, like you want to do. You want to write the book. You want to get fit. You want to build a business that makes money. You want to make a business that helps people. You want these things. And when it comes time to actually doing these things, asking yourself, what am I feeling right now in my body? Do I have resistance? Is there particular things that I'm resisting? And when the resistance comes up, try to identify it. When did you first feel this? Were you 12? Were you 13 like I was? Were you even younger as a kid? Were you older? What experience is buried deep down that could use some work, some care and support, some compassion, some self-love from an older version of yourself to a younger version of yourself to help give you what you need, to help dissipate the feeling. So the feeling is like before I started like being with this 12, 13-year-old Tanner and like supporting him and stuff, whenever I would have friction, I would feel like a spike in resistance. And I'm like, I don't want to do that right now. I'm running away with that. And then coping mechanisms. This is why it's so wild to me, but this is why people drink excessive amounts of alcohol. This is why people smoke cigarettes. This is why people numb themselves with caffeine. This is why you can't have a good day until you have something to help you cope with it, because these types of pains linger. The beach balls are held underwater and you need something to stimulate and numb it. That is truly why I believe people indulge in substances even when they don't want to, even when we all really know that the best human experience is when you're completely sober, you're in nature, and you're fully immersed in the moment. You're watching your kid play or something. Like presence is the key. And that doesn't include substances. But we've become so habitual with not taking the time to understand why we feel the feelings that we do. So we just use the coping mechanisms that help us get by. Why do you think people have midlife crises all the time? Because we can't hold the beach ball down any longer. So understanding this with yourself, what ways are you coping? What are the reasons behind that? Thinking of life as an onion, as they talk about in Shrek, one of the best childhood movies ever, by the way. But ripping the onion layer by layer and kind of seeing, peeling back of what it is. And if you're confused by this, I was too. And maybe just looking up, maybe it's articles online, or maybe you're just reaching out to a professional. Maybe you reach out to me and you're like, Tanner, I'm not really sure where to start with this. How can I help with this? I would love to help in any way I can. Or if I don't believe I can help you, I have many therapists, coaches, and stuff that are specialized in this stuff. So I'd always love to give a referral if I can't help you. But either way, the point of this is if you're really trying to quit something, say if you're trying to quit alcohol, you're trying to quit nicotine, you're trying to quitting eating bad foods, right before you go to do the bad habit, check in with yourself and see how you feel. Is there a resistance? Is there some type of pain body? What's going on? And try and ask yourself, what is this even from? When did I learn this? When did I start using this? Was it a kid? Was I a kid? That's the most common scenario. We hold on to things as children. We use them to survive, and then we apply them. We don't unlearn them because as we get older, it's a lot harder to unlearn things. And take the time to disconnect and say, I don't need this to survive anymore. This is actually hurting me more than it is helping me. And the identification with that can be very, very powerful. And if you're asking coping mechanisms, coping can be anywhere from Excuse me, sorry, my nose was itching like crazy. Coping mechanisms can be anything from caffeine addiction, nicotine, alcohol, to reading. I was using reading as a coping mechanism to avoid doing the work for my coaching company. I'd go numb myself with reading because it felt productive. Oh, I'm learning something. I need topics for the show, whatever my excuse was. When I was really, what I was doing was I was just trying to avoid the hard work that I knew would make me uncomfortable, that I knew would bring up this feeling in my chest. So I've already felt a lot of relief from it, and the reduced friction is already helping me take action. Earlier this week, I was just in a bit of a fits and a rut already, but working with my coach yesterday and diving into this type of stuff and forgiving myself and having more compassion for my younger self and understanding the feelings that I had and I take on and the reasons why I'm doing it has really helped me evolve and grow to the point to where what I'm working on is not that hard. It's just new. It's just different. And now I have a fresh mindset and a healthier perspective that taking these types of things on are actually what's going to get me to the life that I truly want and desire to live. So if you have more questions on this stuff, not asking, looking into childhood trauma and making sure that the things that we're doing are not coping mechanisms from just bearing down feelings and emotions from the past. These are good things to dive into. If you feel like you need anything that is not you, that is not internal to you, then I would investigate, because everything's impermanent. There's nothing that we need to absolutely enjoy and live the most fulfilling life we can right here in the present moment. I would make that argument. I'll stand on that ground. I hear all the time, I need a beer. I need the cigarette. I need this type of food and stuff like that. And it's too bad, because that's definitely a story we're telling ourselves, and it's just not true. I think there's a lot more to life, and I think everyone feels better when they're not dependent. When I quit drinking alcohol for 100 days, and that gave me what I needed to know, that I'm not dependent on this feeling of being numb in order to enjoy my day. And now I can have a beer and I can actually taste the beer and I can enjoy it for what the good things that it does. Because I don't think you have to be a Buddhist monk and you have to give up absolutely everything. But I think we need to take breaks from everything to understand our real relationship with them. So I hope this was helpful. I hope we can help create better relationships with ourselves. I hope we can continue to work on childhood trauma. I hope people can be vulnerable enough. I'll share my story. Hopefully, it can inspire you to dive into yours. Everyone has, I believe, one of these big major feelings. Mine was this like built up ball of just scary confusion, and I would run away from it. I'd run away. So fear is really common in all of us. Take the time to figure out what that is for you and be gentle with yourself. Be compassionate for yourself and see how this can skyrocket your self-esteem, skyrocket your health, skyrocket your wealth, and skyrocket your relationships, because that's what we're all about here. Thanks, everyone. If you know someone who needs a life coach in their corner to help them support them on this personal journey, I have plenty of options going down. So you can always reach out to me here on social media. Otherwise, I will be back here live with another morning show episode, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow, May 18th. May 18th, my brother's birthday. Shout out to Steve the dog. If you get to see him tomorrow, hear from him, make sure to give him a special birthday shout out. But that will be May 18th tomorrow, 8 a.m. live Central Standard Time with another episode of the Talk Tanner Morning Show. Cheers, everyone. I hope you have an incredible, wonderful day. And if you needed to hear it, I love you. Have an awesome day. Cheers to you all. And I'll see you live Thursday morning, live, 8 a.m. Until next time. Cheers, friends. Peace. Ooh.